my gosh.
Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Good morning, and a pleasant good Thursday morning to each and every one of you. We welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10
a.m.
to 12
p.m.
That's Eastern Time. You can find us. Just go to YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. If you'd rather join us in podcast form, just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. Before we go any further today, I'm a little concerned about the next 2 hours. We have good content. We have great guests coming up. But I'm very concerned about what was the word we used? It was so pivotal yesterday, execution.
Execution.
That's a big word. In life, in sports, big word. Execution. No Casey today.
Tom, no one is more worried about this than me. So we're trying our best. Listen, back in the 1979-1980 NBA playoffs, Kareem was out. So what Magic have to do? He had to step in and play in the paint. That's what I'm doing today, Tom.
Okay. You're the Willis Reed for
It's a
those
soldier.
of us that are a little older.
He's a soldier over there. He's fighting a battle. That was a great camera flip. That was a great camera flip. This is going to be This is going to be an encouraging show. I'm going to encourage Reed the whole way. We're going to talk out loud, all our thoughts. We're not going to whisper around the room. We're just going to say our thoughts how they are. That's what we're going to do today. Reed's doing a great job to start. Perfect so far.
I am behind Reed all the way on this. This is new territory. You've been working on learning everything, though. Apparently, Casey has a flat tire, and obviously has spent all of his money gambling instead of making sure that he had the proper tools to change a flat tire. You have that in your Impala, correct?
Yeah, I do. My Impala comes with a lot of things, mostly garbage. There's a lot of garbage in there. But what it
Do you
does
have food garbage in there?
It's got a bunch of it's got garbage in general. It's really just a moving garbage can is how I think of my Impala. But listen, it does have all the necessities for any kind of emergency happening. So it's filled to the brim with everything, including garbage.
Okay.
And there is a lot of garbage.
So the Zebra Zillionaire win or loss ledger has not affected your ability to have all you need in a automotive emergency.
Correct. That's correct. I have not sold any of my emergency things yet for gambling money. Not yet. I still have that card in my back pocket if I need it, Tom.
Yeah.
Some people get rid of that card. I still have my card. If I need to sell my emergency equipment, I will for gambling money. I will do that.
Okay. Well, Casey's dad apparently is on his way to help him out. And so, Casey, we hope you're okay. Somebody in the chat, way out of line.
Way out of line.
Way out of line.
Way out of line.
What happened?
They said apparently, Casey was pulling out in the lot across the street onto the sidewalk, and Elliot, what was made, the note in the chat? I thought it was way out of line.
It was disgusting. He said lawnmower man clearly forgot to do his job, and there were loose nails and other things that could destroy a tire, and that's what happened to poor Casey. Poor Casey is a victim of the lawnmower man getting lazy. Didn't mow the sidewalk strong enough, the concrete.
I mean, look at me over here, guys. I'm trying my best, and now you're going to bash Hamilton on today
We're
of all
not
days?
bashing
I'm not bashing
No,
Hamilton.
not them. You in the chat. What we doing here? I'm doing my best. Come on. The mic's on. It wasn't on earlier. It's on. Now we're ready to roll. Tom?
Okay. All right. Okay. So, somebody said, what's wrong with you, Tom? We're just repeating what some of you, Everett, asked me that question because I asked him that question. He didn't want to hear about college football talk today. We got a big weekend in college football.
Yeah, we're talking about college football. Don't listen to Everett. I'm not listening to Everett.
Everett's a good man. I like Everett. We got to get into the saga, however, of Mouse Cop sometime before the show is over here today.
I'm sure we'll get
nothing
there.
going on at Paycor this week. At least nothing that's organized for the entire team with this Sunday off. Many of the players, it's my understanding, they take off and they get out of town. Heal their sore bodies, refresh their tired legs, and let's be honest about it. They've been going at this pretty much every day going back to July. Now, Brian Callahan, he talked a lot about potential changes to this anemic offense, including more quarterback under center formations. Now that Joe Burrow apparently is healthier and healthier, Callahan said he needs more receivers to get involved that are not named Jamar Chase. So the Bengals will face the 49ers a week from Sunday out in Santa Clara. The Niners have a game before that. They will travel to Minnesota and play on Monday Night Football this week. There's a Thursday night game tonight. Did you buy into the whole Prime thing so you can watch Thursday Night Football or no?
I think there's very few people who don't have Amazon Prime in the United States of America, Tom. So it comes with your Amazon Prime subscription. So like if you get the overnight shipping, yeah, I got a Prime.
I have a Prime. You have a Prime, don't you? I have a Prime.
We do.
Well, the thing about the Amazon Prime broadcast is that there's a bit. Number one, there's a big lag. So if you're on any scoring app, like I always follow along with my Yahoo Sports app or my ESPN app, there's a massive delay. Secondly, the broadcast always has something go wrong in it. Either the cameras will cut out, the screen will go black for 10 seconds. Something always bad happens during that broadcast, which is why I'm not a big fan of it. But I don't hate it, I guess. There certainly could be worse places to put a game, like Peacock. Any program or school that plays on Peacock that can't be trusted. I would hate to have my school or team play for something that really doesn't even exist. Nobody knows what Peacock is. If you have your games there, nobody's watching it. So that's terrible. I guess my point is here, Thursday Night Football is really fun. I wish they would put it back on regular television. I just give it back to ESPN. I'm done with the Amazon Prime thing. I have it. I'll watch it. It's fun. It's whatever. But I'd rather not be on Amazon Prime.
Okay. All right. The game tonight is in New Orleans. The Saints will host the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are starting to get their sea legs back a little bit here. The question is, will Trevor Lawrence play? He injured his left knee in the Jaguars win this past Sunday. Z Brazilianaire, any action there tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? What do you think?
Yeah. We can do this at the end of the show, but right now I'll say just I'll give a couple little hints.
Little nuggets?
Little nuggets. Number one, I love the under. The under in the game, I think it keeps dropping because nobody knows if Trevor Lawrence is playing. I don't even think it matters if it plays. The Saints have an elite defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars have played decent against the run game. I love the under. The number's 39 according to Betfred Sportsbook, the greatest sportsbook known to man, I believe. It might be 40. It's one of those two. That's my big one. That's my big play. And I love the first quarter under 7.5 as well.
First quarter under 7.5. You made some cash last night.
I did
for a lot of people in the baseball playoff game.
I did. I've been telling people to bet responsibly on these first inning unders, Tom. They always hit. Now, granted, I believe this is the first one I've hit this postseason. I could be wrong about that.
There have been a lot of first inning runs this year.
There's been too many, Tom. Too many. It's been quite some issue. But last night I won it. It felt good. It feels good to get on the board.
It does.
Even if you're down 30-0, once you get that first point, it feels good.
That's nice.
Feels
and
great.
that was the only inning Max Scherzer did not allow a run. The first inning.
Right.
Terrible.
We looked it up. Has Max been good in the postseason?
Max has had a good run at 3.8 career ERA, and he's pitched in 30-something postseason games. I mean, he's had his hiccups like everybody else has. You remember a game against the Cubbies?
Yeah, I remember back in 2017 he came in relief in Game 5 and blew the lead for the Nationals. So he's a guy that we talk about nut cutters in the postseason. He has that personality of being a nut cutter.
Yeah.
He's the guy who you feel confident getting a ball because he's just going to be a bulldog out there. But as he showed last night, it doesn't always play out well.
Doesn't always play out. He was coming back after an injury, had not pitched in a game since September the 12th. We'll get to that here in a second. We are going to talk a lot of college football today. We will visit with Chad Brendel, who follows everything that is the University of Cincinnati. We'll get his thoughts on the football team home this weekend against Baylor and looking for its first conference win, but more importantly, the situation with the basketball team and two players who, at least for the time being, are not going to be on the Bearcats roster. That could change. We'll hear more from Chad in a minute. The biggest college football game of this season so far is Saturday in Columbus. Number 3, the mighty Buckeyes of Ohio State will host unbeaten and 7th-ranked Penn State. Dave Biddle, the editor of Bucknuts on 24/7 Sports, joins us for a preview of the game. A lot of Buckeyes were injured last week. Key players, will they be back this week? Baseball big-time statement game last night from Dusty and the boys, right? Astros, Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. They were down 2-0. The defending world champs jumped all over, as we mentioned, Max Scherzer scoring 5 times in the first 4 innings en route to a really series-saving 7-5 win. Every time the Rangers would try and, challenge the lead, the Astros would come right back and answer. Texas leads at 2-1, Game 4 tonight in Arlington. First pitch set for 8 o'clock. The National League Championship Series moves to the desert in Phoenix, Arizona. Game 3 tonight. The Fightin' Phils against the Battling D-backs. Can Arizona make a statement to get back in this series, trailing 2-0? If not, they are DUN. That would be done. Rangers Suarez against Brandon Pfaadt. It's a tricky name to pronounce because it's spelled P-F-A-A-D-T. Pfaadt. First pitch 4:07 on TBS. The Gold Glove voting was narrowed down to 3 players at each position in each league last night, and not a single Red in the mix. Many surprised. Ryan Friedel was not in that mix.
Yeah, TJ Friedel should have.
TJ Friedel.
TJ Friedel should have gotten one. Other than that, the Reds were one of the worst defensive teams in the league. We certainly don't have a great defensive catcher. First base defense, not great. Third base defense, not great. Shortstop defense was one of the worst in the league. Shout out Ellie, it's my guy. I love Ellie De La Cruz, but he had like 30 errors this year. That's hyperbole. He didn't actually have 30. But yeah, I'm not shocked by this. Out of all the things I could have been shocked by, the Reds not receiving a Gold Glove vote is not one of them.
Okay. All right. Who was I thinking of that was an excellent who passed away? Ryan.
Ryan Friel.
Friel. That's where. Yeah. Rest his soul. He was a good dude.
Great defender too. That guy.
Yeah,
was
and
great.
I like that guy. I always liked him.
Nut cutter.
He had some issues. There's no doubt about it. But he was a good dude. I liked being around him. Did you see the comments made yesterday by Reds general manager Nick Kroll? I loved him. He discussed that just because all these young players had very good moments this season does not mean that all those guys are going to be better next season. We've been saying this on the show all along. If you got a chance to win, go win now. And that is, of course, correct. He said the club has so much talent, he's spot on. But the tough decisions are going to have to be made on who stays and who goes in the infield and the outfield. There's simply not enough room for everybody, and they're loaded with talent. That basically is sending a message to every player on that roster, even the Ellie De La Cruzes of the world. You better show up ready to go no matter what you did last season. I like that when a general manager steps out.
Yep.
Basically, that's a challenge from across the bow.
No doubt.
What are they saying in Chicago?
In
Are they
Chicago.
challenging anybody there about that epic collapse this year?
Collapse, Tom. What are you talking about?
I mean, that's one of the all-time choke jobs.
Terrible.
It doesn't go down with the 69 Cubbies, but it's one of the all-time choke jobs ever this year by your Chicago Cubs.
Listen, Tom, when you have a 95% chance to make the postseason, there's still a 5% chance you don't. And the odds just weren't in the Cubs' favor. I don't know what else to say, Tom.
Choke job, Elliot.
Choke job. I was in Chicago, and I'll say this. I knew that team wasn't going to make the playoffs as soon as I saw them that game. I knew it, Tom. Now, granted, they beat us in that game. I think it was like 16-7, but I knew it. I sniffed it out early.
I'll never forget you looking at me because you wanted to put your entire life savings on the Reds to win that ball game, and I talked you out of it. The Reds go up 3-0 or 3-1, whatever it was, and you look like you turned to me and said, "It's over. It's over." You were so mad at me, and they lost by 27 runs or some hugabaloo.
It was tough. Speaking of bad defense, I remember in that game, Nick Senzel, I believe, muffed over 3 errors.
Yes, he did.
At third base. Joey Votto, I think, had an error at first. Stuart Fairchild had a missed fly ball in center. I'm a steel trap up here, Tom. I remember these things.
You really do.
They scar me for life.
I still find myself going back and watching at least 2-3 times a week your live report from downtown Cleveland.
You like that one?
I loved it.
That was
all
a good
the
one.
honking horns and the sirens and people yelling in the background.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That was big time.
That was a busy day.
It was a very busy day in the street. We all went down for that game against the Guardians. We won that game, I believe, and then lost the next one.
There was someone with a gun.
There was somebody with a gun. It's Cleveland. What need I say more, Tom? Somebody with a gun was in Cleveland.
See, I'm not jumping on that Bash Cleveland bandwagon.
I'm not. I love.
I'm not
Cleveland.
doing it.
I love them.
I'm not going to jump on the Bash Hamilton bandwagon, and I'm not jumping on the Bash Cleveland bandwagon. That's not my style. The baseball playoffs. Did you guys watch last night, or did you have some other stuff going on? I didn't get a chance to watch them. Once I saw Scherzer getting kicked around, I'm like, they're done. They're done.
Yeah, I watched the first I think 4 innings.
That's all you need.
First 4 innings, and yeah, the Astros jumped all over top of them. Then my wife came home and she said, "Listen, we're watching The Voice," and I guess I just had to watch The Voice at that point. That wasn't a whole lot.
The Voice.
Yeah, I had to
Is
watch
that the show with the husband and wife? Come on,
Blake Shelton and
Yeah.
Gwen Stefani. Blake Shelton is no longer Tom. Come on, how do you not know that Blake Shelton?
This is old news, Tom. This is old
Okay,
news.
well, I don't watch it, clearly. I thought that they were both on there. Weren't they for a time?
They were. That's where they fell in love. That's where the love blossomed
I like that.
into a
I
marriage.
like that pairing. They seem like they're very happy to me.
Yeah, well, that I guess Gwen was just a holla back girl for Blake after he divorced his original wife. That's a good callback for a Gwen Stefani song. The Voice is not a very good show. It's not a very good show.
Well,
Tom,
why are you watching it?
Well, it's because I'm married, and the wife picks what we watch. I get Sundays to watch the Bengals, and then most days during the summer when the Cubs are on. But I didn't have a whole lot of a leg to stand on last night when I said, "Can we watch the Astros Rangers game?" That was a big old, "Why the hell do you want to watch this?" And I'm like, "Well, I like baseball, and it's my job to watch sports." But I digress. It was the Rangers almost came back. They showed some spunk.
They did.
Then the Astros.
But then Houston would come right back and score.
Right.
Like, they'd get 2, Astros come back and get 2. They'd get 1, Astros would get 1. 7-5 the final. And that's the first game this entire postseason that Texas has lost. Will you be watching a doubleheader today?
I don't know if I'm going to be watching both of them. I think the first one's at like 5 o'clock or something like that.
4 o'clock.
I'm going to be watching the Phillies game. I
Yeah.
think that one is that
That's
the first
the early one.
That's the early one.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching that one. So, listen. I said it yesterday. I'm on a Phillies spree right now. I think they're the most fun team in this postseason. I love it. And my favorite part about it too is how their owner cared enough to spend money on the team, and you can see it paying off. Shout out Nick Kirby for that one.
Now, Nick Kirby went off yesterday pointing out that all these guys they are paying that have done nothing. But
Yeah,
that's the thing about a big market franchise. That's the thing. If the Reds would have given when they gave Votto his $250 million 10-year contract, if Votto would have just fallen off the rails or had gotten hurt and missed the overwhelming majority, the Reds can't spend to cover up that mistake. The Phillies can spend, and this all gets back to this whole thing again about, I don't know how many people would get mad at me when I was doing the Reds games, and I would just say, hey, look, all you need to do is look at the top 10 payroll teams. Now, the top 3 this year didn't even make the playoffs. That's an outlier year, total outlier year, right? But once you get down to say when we were in the last round, when you were down to the 8 teams, right? 7 of the 8 were in the top 10 in team payroll. The only one that sits outside 21st, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And that's because they have a young team. They have spent money in the past when they wanted to go spend money, but they did what the Reds have done, and they've built this whole thing up 2 years removed from losing 100 games in a season to now a bunch of young guys running all over the field except for Longoria. Right?
Yep.
Right. So, listen, it's money. It's money. It doesn't guarantee you success, i.e. Mets, i.e. Padres, i.e. Yankees. But here we are, the final 4 teams. Monster market Houston, monster market Dallas, monster market Philly, and little old Arizona.
And we talked about this yesterday. If you go back throughout the history of the past, I don't know, I think the sample size I did was until the year 2000. There's been roughly 3 teams, I believe is the number I saw, 3 teams below the bottom 15 in payroll. So in those teams, I believe, were the Marlins, Phillies, and maybe Royals. And Royals, I think, might have been top 15. So I know the Marlins and the Phillies. Marlins in 03 and Phillies in 08 or 09?
08.
And Phillies in 08.
lost
Those
in
are the
09.
only 2 teams below that middle of the pack line there. Yeah.
I mean, but
Spend money and you win. That's just a fact.
Well, and if you're lucky to have, and we talked about this with Kansas City when they won the whole thing. That was a homegrown team, including your guy Moose.
Yep.
Moose Takis,
The new guy.
who you thought about bringing back.
I still think they should, Tom.
Well, the Moose turned it around out in Colorado. Now, if you want to get your career turned around as an offensive player, that would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the Moose going to play? You didn't say that yesterday. You said they should bring him back, but you never said where he would play.
He'll be an usher.
Well, Tom, I think he should bat. I think he should be batting
You'll work with
cleanup.
the
I
other
think
ushers.
he should be playing first base. Hell, even play him at shortstop. I don't know, Tom. Just play him wherever.
He couldn't get worked defensively at shortstop, technically.
Elliot, do you get tired of like a constant bit from Reed?
Yeah.
It's a constant bit.
Well, listen.
right? I mean, he puts up, first of all, yesterday. I went back and watched it again last night. For those of you that weren't with us yesterday, his top 5, right? Right?
Yep.
And the first one he puts up there, Jordan Montgomery, you're thinking, oh, okay. There's some thought going on here into this thing, right?
Yep.
And then number 4 pops up Homer Bailey. And then number 3 pops up the Moose.
Yeah, listen.
And Ken Griffey Jr. makes the list.
Ken Griffey Jr.
In hindsight, Billy Hamilton would have been funnier in the Jamar
It would have been
Chase.
funnier.
But Tom, I don't even know if you recognize this, but the picture I put up of Homer Bailey was not of Homer Bailey.
Yeah.
That was a part of the bit. I thought it was funny.
I
Come
thought
on,
that was a
Tom.
funny bit. That was
was
Christian
funny.
Bale, Tom. He played Batman.
Yeah, Batman.
I'm a very serious person.
You are.
I hate to make jokes. I hate to have fun. So whenever I see Reed crawling out from under his bridge and being the troll that he is.
Troll.
Troll. It really makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. Tom, there was a WNBA Finals last night.
You know what? I was remiss in reporting that Las Vegas wins that series 3-1, becoming a back-to-back champion. So congratulations to the Aces. Is that their nickname?
Yes, they are the Aces. So, fun fact, Tom, one of the players on the WNBA team didn't know this, was a daughter of a Hamiltonian, Greg Stokes, who was a
remember him well.
Yeah, went to
Greg
Hamilton.
Stokes, big-time player.
Played at Iowa, I believe.
Yeah, big-time player.
His daughter has won 3 national championships with UConn and just won her second WNBA championship.
How about that?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Is he
cool.
still up and around here, do you know? I mean, is he still alive?
I have never met Greg
He would
Stokes,
be
so I don't
only
know.
in his 60s, I think.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about
Mid-60s,
Greg Stokes.
I remember watching him in high school.
For the Big Blue.
Oh, I mean, back in those days, there were some big-time players in his town. I don't mean like some guy, maybe he's – I mean, you had him. You had LaSalle Thompson, who was the single most heavily recruited high school basketball player in the country at Withrow. He signed originally with Texas. Ends up playing in the NBA for 10, 12 years. You had, I think it was the guy from Elder, big guy, stud, Fetterman, Danny Fetterman, I'm pretty sure. Again, all these were like the Final Four for the region at Cincinnati Gardens. I remember going down and watching these games. These were unbelievable games. Yeah, I mean, there were some big-time players, and Stokes was right at the top of the list. You're right, went to the University of Iowa. Have to check out and find out if he's still alive. Okay, we mentioned that the baseball playoffs continue today. Are you giving it all? You said yesterday, Elliot, and I'm going to give you a chance to correct yourself if you're so inclined.
Okay.
Are you saying that the Diamondbacks are done? D-U-N, done. They cannot get back in this series.
The Arizona Diamondbacks, congratulations on a historic playoff run. You beat the Braves. Everybody's proud of you. You're done. Your season's over now. Or you beat the Dodgers, excuse me, not the Braves. You beat the Dodgers. Phillies are going to sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Sweep. Okay,
Sweep.
You buying into that, Reed?
4-game sweep.
It's so hard to sweep a team in the postseason, Tom, but if there is a team that could do it, it's the Phillies, the way they're playing right now. I mean, they're playing almost possessed. We'll see what happens when they go on the road. We'll see what happens when they play down in Chase Field tonight. Did you see the prices?
I did not.
I think I saw prices to get into the game were like $15 or something.
Where?
For the
That's
Diamondbacks.
not
Well, I
right.
mean, the stadium's too big. You know, when they built that, I was out there working for the team 2 years before they started playing. And the mistake they made, they knew those first couple of years they were going to draw 3.7 million fans. And they built a stadium that was standing room is like the old Riverfront, 50+ thousand, right? I mean,
Right,
it's
it's-
too
it's
big.
huge.
It's just too big. Even though it's a big city, it's too big because when you start getting up into the upper decks of ballparks or stadiums that big, they aren't good seats. You know, okay, $15, maybe you can say you were down there. They had 49,000. They sold out the Dodger game. They only got one of them there. They won the first two in LA and one
Correct.
game in Phoenix.
Right.
So they've only played one playoff game during this whole run at home. They beat Milwaukee 2 in a row in Milwaukee
Right.
in the wild card round.
Right.
They beat the Dodgers the first two in a best-of-5 at Dodger Stadium, played the one game at home. They started this LCS, first two on the road in Philly, so tonight back at home. That place will be jumping.
How was the crowd back in 2001 when you were there?
Oh, it was
At
off
home
the
game.
charts.
Was it?
I mean, off the charts, yeah. I mean, you're talking about, you know, look, as time goes by, but you knew then, you were watching multiple Hall of Fame players in that series. They were littered all over the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, or guys that certainly would get serious consideration for the Hall of Fame. But there were automatic guys you were watching. If Schilling, people didn't like his politics, he'd be in.
That's
He
a shame,
deserves to
by
be
the
in.
way.
Randy Johnson, he's already in. Roger Clemens pitched in that series.
Should be
he's in. If Pettit doesn't do the steroids, good chance he's in. You got Jeter, right?
Right.
He was there. You had Matt Williams, who was a league MVP, right? 10-time All-Star,
Right.
whole deal. I mean, you had guys all over the field.
Bernie
that-
Williams, who should have
Bernie Williams.
Bernie
right,
Williams should
right.
get more consideration.
Mariano Rivera.
No doubt.
I mean, you had guys, think about that for a minute. Just those names in one series.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, that was, you know, what a lot of people forget about that. They certainly don't forget about it when you stop and pause and just remember, oh, yeah. But that was when Derek Jeter got his nickname, Mr. November, because 9/11 occurred that year.
Yeah.
In
2001.
2001. And so the baseball season shut down for like 10 days, 2 weeks. So by the time they resumed it, started the playoffs, the World Series was going into November. And Jeter hit a home run to win a game at Yankee Stadium. I think it was game 5, something like that, extra innings. But that crowd, you know, a lot of people talk about the Philadelphia crowd, and rightfully so right now. But I got to tell you, there was nothing I've ever seen in my life. Like the first two games of that World Series were played in Phoenix, and the Diamondbacks just bludgeoned the Yankees. Schilling out pitches Clemens in game 1. Johnson, complete game, shutout, game 2. Johnson and Schilling went the first two games of that series, pitched 17 innings, gave up 1 run. And then they go to New York. Well, we get in there. We go to ground zero, where there's still this massive pile of destruction and thousands of workers there trying to dig up bodies buried down below. And Rudy Giuliani, the mayor at the time of New York City, was basically looking for anybody of note that's known in anything to just come down there and try and, you know, give some inspiration to the workers who were down there 24/7. Well, they brought the entire Diamondbacks team. All of us went down there.
Really?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. As soon as we landed, all-night flight. Played game 2 in Phoenix, flew all night, went straight to ground zero.
I didn't know that.
But then game 3 of that series, the bald eagle is soaring around Yankee Stadium. President Bush throws out the first pitch, right? The crowd was, I've never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable, the emotion in that place that night. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, we told you we're going to talk a lot about college football here today. We're going to start with our good friend up in Columbus, Ohio, Mr. Dave Biddle. He is everything 24/7 Bucknut Sports and the editor there. David, thanks for your time this morning. How's everything 48 hours and counting from the big showdown at the Shoe?
Oh, it's going great, Tom. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, two legitimate national
Hang on,
championship.
Dave. We've got
No, that's good, dude. I was fired up.
Is he there?
Yeah, he's there. Can you hear him?
I can't hear him.
What about now? Dave?
Are you there, Dave?
I'm here.
All right, buddy. How are you? Forgive me for interrupting.
Let's go, Reed.
We've got a rookie on
I'm
the
doing
board
great.
today, and we're wondering about the wheels falling off this show, which they're starting to already. But is everybody pumped up there as they should be in Columbus?
For sure, Tom. Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. Yeah, it's the excitement out here is palpable. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you look at these two teams, legit top 7 teams, legit national championship contenders. Penn State's had some talented teams since James Franklin's been there. I know I'm not breaking news here. This is the most talented team they've had. If you look at any NFL mock draft, especially the ones that go like up to the 3rd round, I mean, Penn State, first round, Penn State, second round, Penn State, 3rd round. So this is a very talented team on both sides of the ball. They're the number 1 total defense in the country. Can Ohio State run the ball? But, it's a big question. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, the excitement here is through the roof. We're just 2 days away, and I can't wait for this one.
Let me ask you, I'm just kind of curious if you have a gauge on the fan base, or even for you personally and friends around town living up there. What's the reaction to noon games as opposed to this not being a Saturday night game?
Depends on who you talk to, really. Yeah. I mean, I think most fans would rather have this be a night game, and are frustrated that usually Penn State gets it as a night game. Now, last year they did not. But Ohio State's had to play in whiteout conditions 7 times since 2005. And during that time, there's been 4 Ohio State-Penn State night games at the Horseshoe. So not a huge difference, 7 at Penn State, 4 at Ohio State. Then there's some people who like it, getting the, big game. You don't have to wait around all day. Personally, for me, I like the noon games. I'm able to, get done working at a reasonable time and still see the night games. But no, the most of the fans, especially for a game like this, wish it was a night game. Now, fans will also get frustrated when they throw, like, let's say they have a Rutgers game that's a night game. Fans don't like that. It's like, why are they playing Rutgers at night? But for big games, fans want the home game to be a night game for the Penn State game.
You talked about, can Ohio State run the football, and it leads right into whether it was players before the game, their top 2 running backs, Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams. Then Chip Trayanum gets hurt during the game, so they have to go to their 4th-string running back in Dallin Hayden, who looked great. I don't know why the kid doesn't play more, but they're loaded in that room. There's no doubt about it. But those guys were hurt. Denzel Burke, their best cornerback, arguably was hurt, did not play. He left the game, didn't come back. Where are they with all these injuries? That seems like it could be a huge factor, needless to say, in this game.
Yeah, it's tough to tell because Ryan Day is so tight-lipped when it comes to injuries. I would be the exact same way if I was a football coach. Why let your opponents know the status of your injured players? But, Tom, I'll be surprised if Emeka Egbuka plays. He went down. He missed last week's game, didn't even make the trip to Purdue. It's some type of ankle injury. Marvin Harrison Jr. told us that yesterday. Wasn't going to let the cat out of the bag if Emeka's going to play or not. I'll be surprised if Emeka plays. I won't be shocked, but I'll be surprised if he does play, he'll be limited. Denzel Burke is another one. Their number 1 corner. That's another one that's, if I had to guess, I think he might have to sit this one out, or will be limited. They are better at corner than what they've been. Davis Nigbinosin has been a tremendous transfer from Ole Miss. Jordan Hancock's playing well. Jermaine Matthews, young man from Cincinnati, as a true freshman, playing well in spot duty. But they need Denzel Burke in a game like this. I know Penn State's passing offense has not been good, but it hasn't needed to be good. To lose your number 1 corner in a game like this would be bad for Ohio State. And Emeka, obviously losing him, it would be bad, but they can withstand that. I mean, because they have Marvin Harrison Jr. They've got other depth at wide receiver like Julian Fleming, Carnell Tate, guys like that. And then the running backs, Tom, I think they're going to be okay at running back. I don't know if all 3 of those guys will play that got banged up. The 2 guys that missed the game entirely, Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, as you mentioned, and then Chip Trayanum, got dinged. I think at least 2 of those 3 will play. And as you mentioned, they have Dallin Hayden, who they only, for some reason, as you said, play when absolutely necessary. Yeah. And he looks good every time he's out there. I think we finally have cracked the code, Tom. I think it's got to be pass pro and blocking in general. Because Ryan Day, if you read between the lines, I mean, we were wondering, is it maybe ball security in practice? And he shot that down. He said, no, he's doing a great job with ball security. He's great when the ball's in his hands. He stopped short of saying anything about blocking. So I think that's what it is with Dallin Hayden. But so yeah, Burke and Mecca Egbuka are the two to keep a close eye on. And I'll be surprised if those guys play.
Yeah, Egbuka, I failed to mention him. You look at the numbers, and now they haven't played anybody. They being Penn State. The only team they've played that is currently ranked, and they just broke into the rankings despite one of the worst offenses in the country, is Iowa. And Penn State shut them out. But Penn State is number one, as you mentioned, in a laundry list of categories, including getting to the quarterback and 4.5 sacks per game. The offensive line has been hit or miss early on for Ohio State. Can they hold these guys off? Because you mentioned, they got first, second, third round draft picks all over the place on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and they really have 3 starters at defensive end, if that makes sense. So they rotate those guys almost equally. They got 3 studs at D end. And, all 3 of those guys will play in the NFL. They actually have 2 other guys they play at defensive end. They're not quite as good at D tackle, but that's because they're so good at defensive end. So that's going to be a big test. That was the big question, as you know, Tom, coming into the season about this Buckeye team was this offensive line. And halfway through the regular season, that's still the biggest question on this team. Maybe you could say entering the season, the defense was a big question, but there's no doubt the offensive line is the biggest question. Have they been bad? No. But they haven't been championship level, what I would consider championship level. They've shown signs of it. They played much better last week, but that was against Purdue, and Purdue has given up rushing yards to everybody that they've played. So they've tried to simplify things up front, but this will be a test like they haven't seen. I mean, you got to give Notre Dame credit, especially playing Notre Dame at their place at night. I mean, but still, Penn State will be on a different level talent-wise. Good news for the Buckeyes, as we all know, this game's at the Horseshoe. That helps. But I don't know, Tom. We'll find out on Saturday. I don't have a good answer for you right now if Ohio State's tackles can handle those defensive ends because they haven't seen anything like it yet.
We refer to this show #NutcutterNation because we always like having the guys who step up when it matters the most. And I think you have such a fascinating matchup at the quarterback position here because Penn State has a sophomore. He played a lot last year when Clifford was out, but this is his first year as a full starter. They've methodically moved down the field. They haven't hit the big plays like a lot of people thought they were capable of, and they still might do that. Then you have Kyle McCord, who, look, the only time so far he's been, in a nut cutter situation, as we say, he took his team right down the field the final minute and a half against Notre Dame and won the game at the end. So he's got that to hang his hat on. But neither one of these guys, well, I'm not going to say neither one because McCord, you'd have to say, has played in a game like this. Whereas, but this hasn't been routine like it was Clifford and Stroud or some other guys through the years. What do you think of that quarterback matchup?
Yeah, not a lot of people are talking about that. That Aller, this will be his first big game. At least McCord has one big game under his belt. And we'll see how that affects Drew Aller. He seems like a pretty cool customer. And the lack of throwing the ball down the field, I'm curious, Tom, if that's because they just haven't needed to.
Right.
They've been blowing everybody out. Did you mention they've been a dink and dunk offense, like you mentioned, but Drew Aller's big, strong kid, strong arm. I have seen him sail a few passes. Maybe they're just not confident, but going to the Michigan game last year, what did everybody say? Well, JJ can't throw the ball deep, and then he hits deep passes against Ohio State left and right. It's easy to hit deep receivers when they're open by 30 yards, but I digress. It is an interesting matchup. Drew Aller put up unbelievable numbers here in the state of Ohio. That's another interesting sidebar. Penn State's quarterback's from Ohio. Ohio State's quarterback from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Really technically New Jersey, but played, obviously, in Philadelphia across the river. But, it's going to be very interesting. Ryan Day handpicked Kyle McCord over J.J. McCarthy. This has been his guy for a long time. And it's been a little bit of a mixed bag with Kyle. I think overall Kyle McCord's played well. There's good things you can see. The arm talent is evident with him. He's cool under pressure. But ball placement has left a lot to be desired at times. The timing, that's to be expected for a first-year starter. But, this game will be won in the trenches. But, also it'll, who plays best at quarterback will obviously go a long way. So I'm curious to see how this quarterback battle will play out on Saturday.
All right, David, I'm going to throw you on the spot. What do you think when all's said and done?
I think Ohio State's going to eke this one out. And I think it's, I think if you're a betting man or woman, take the under for points. Watch it be a shootout now that I said that. But I think The weather could be a little tricky. You're talking about two of the best defenses in college football, elite, legit defenses. I like Ohio State by a field goal, so I'm not picking Ohio State to cover. I'll pick Ohio State straight up by a field goal, low-scoring game.
All right. I hope you're right. We're rooting for the Bucs here. At least most of us are. I know I am. I'll be dialed into every single play of the game.
The Bearcat fans aren't rooting for the Buckeyes.
No, they're not. They're not. But they, look, everybody has their own issues, and that's okay. We don't judge here, but that's the truth. David, thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tom. Appreciate
All
it,
right.
man.
Dave Biddle, great to have him with us, the editor from Bucknuts 24/7 Sports, does a great job. Great dude. Knows everything there is inside and out about Ohio State. And he's a hardcore everything fan. I mean, he's watching the Reds this year, and he's getting frustrated like a lot of you were. He knows what's going on with the Guardians up there. Lots of reactions. Mark Fetter says Buckeyes 28-20.
Tom, what do you think?
We're going to find out in our picks tomorrow.
Ooh, that's a nice tease, Tom. Nice tease.
Going to find out in our picks tomorrow, big boy. Did you get anything out of that zebra as far as from a gambling perspective? Dave just laid it out there. He said, I'd bet the under, and I would bet the Bucs not to cover but to win.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm gonna probably take the over, and I'm probably gonna take the Bucs to win. But I think
money line.
I think
or cover.
I think
money line or cover.
Cover.
All right.
I thank him for his service, but those are the picks I see fit. Listen, everybody knows in this room that I'm the greatest gambler to ever live, perhaps. So, yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State to cover the points. Tom says they're the best team of all time. I'm going to agree with him. I'm going to believe him. And I'm going to hope he beats Penn State by 30. I hope they beat Penn State by 30. It would prove Reed and I's point that the Big Ten are fraudulent. Fraudulent.
No. Okay.
Here we go again. All right, listen. Let's get to the early. Let's get to the early weather because we got Chad Brendel coming up, and I want to follow that comment made a little bit by Dave Biddle because I have always been fascinated by Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati, and the way it ignores Ohio State. I mean, we're our own little republic down here.
That's right.
And so, all right, look, you heard Dave Biddle also mention about the weather. Look, it's been a little, shaky here lately. Normally this time of the year, we got a lot of sunshine. There's always sunshine in Hamilton. For those of you, if you need to get away from the dreary world, rain, clouds, just drive up to Hamilton.
That's right.
Elliot, take it away, my man.
Let's go. Thanks, Tom. I still have to think of a nickname. I don't have one yet for you. I got Ronald Reagan. That one's cemented. That's the best nickname of all time. Listen. I was driving into work today. The sun was shining. It feels good. It wasn't even like a fall cool day. It's cool outside, but it feels genuinely good. The past couple days, it's been like 20 degrees in the morning. That's an exaggeration. It hasn't been. I'm a meteorologist. I should take this more professionally. It's been like 40 in the morning. Today was like 50-something in the morning. Today, high 70, low 50, roughly. Give or take about 7 degrees each side. I can't be perfect out here. I'm a weatherman. I'm imperfect. I'm a meteorologist. But you're going to listen to me anyway because you really have no choice. But you do have a choice, though. And what's that choice? Boom, cell phone. You check the cell phone. I'm going to get on my handy weather app that every iPhone comes with. If you don't have an iPhone, do they have a weather app on Androids?
I assume they're not.
I don't think they do.
Just looking up into the sky.
I don't think they do. Well, that's another thing you could do as well, because if you look up into the sky, you'll know the weather. You'll know exactly what the weather will be. I looked up, boom, sunshine was out. If it rains later, I'm going to know that. Why? Because it's going to rain on me. It's not hard, guys. Oh, wait, it is actually supposed to rain today.
It was going to rain all day. I was just going to let you go.
Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, it is supposed to rain today, actually. Yeah, it's supposed to rain all night. That's my bad. Listen. It says here, but that's only 40% chance. There's only a 40% chance of rain. Again, now that 40% chance is the entire day, every hour of the day. But I knew that because I checked my phone. I wasn't listening to me up here. I knew it because I checked my phone. And that's what a meteorologist does. They check their phone. They come up. They say some nonsense about precipitation and other big words like cold fronts. And then they go on their way about their day. So, yeah, this is nothing. A little bit of rain, a little bit. I wouldn't even call it rain. I'd call it more of a drizzle. It's gonna drizzle for the day. If you don't like a drizzle, it's gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna calm down. You put on a sweater, you put on a coat, you put on a jacket, you get an umbrella out, and you'll be on your way. You're dialed in, as Tom would say. So that's it for the weather. Again, Tom's point of driving to Hamilton and seeing only sunshine, it's not going to work today. There is going to be some rain. There's going to be some rain. But every other day, that method holds true. Is that Casey?
That's Casey. He was changing his tire this morning. Hopefully we get him in the studios.
Now Casey.
standing there taking selfies while his dad's back there slinging lug nuts.
Yeah, listen, Casey had to deal with the weather today. He knew it. He slipped and slid all over the road. Boom, tire got flat. Couldn't make it into the show today. Reed's doing a great. I want to say as a meteorologist, and they should weigh more than any other compliment Reed will ever have. As a meteorologist, you're doing a great job today.
Thanks. Appreciate
You're doing a great job today. We're going to kick it over to Tom, just so then Reed can readjust. We're going to do the ads as well, and maybe we'll do some off-the-cuff ad reads today. Maybe we'll have some fun with the ads. So hold on, I'm gonna.
Oh. Bring it on back.
Bring it on back.
Yeah, here we go. All right, guys. Hang on, we're gonna do this live. We don't want the weather forecast. We want the studio.
It is sunny right now in Hamilton.
It is, but it's going to rain. It's going to rain, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So we're about to talk Bearcats, and that is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Get your technology solutions from Encore Technologies. I wish I had the proper ad read in front of me, but yeah, they increase efficiency and productivity. Find your technology solutions at Encore Technology. The path to innovation begins here.
There is not a better place to go to get your Encore solution technologies
your technology
than from
solutions.
Encore.
Yes.
Everybody go to Encore today, right now. Get technology solutions from Encore. They're the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Well,
you know what else is the greatest of all time?
Yeah, the greatest water in the history of mankind is right here. It's made in Hamilton, right across the street. It is Pawnee Water. These guys are great. They are a great company, and they do things the right way. And how I know they do things the right way is because they filtrate their water naturally through limestone, not river pebble or whatever the opposite of limestone is. It is natural limestone filtration. It's got a pH level of 8. There's only one thing that goes in the bottle. It's water. Go seriously. Go to your local convenience store. Go pull random waters out, specifically the ones that have electrolytes in them, and see what's in the ingredients. It won't just say water. It'll say some salt, some saline solution, all that bad stuff. Pawnee Water, only one thing in the bottle. It is water. Elliot, what's your favorite thing about Pawnee Water?
It's funny you ask. I was thinking about this the other day. My favorite part about Pawnee Water is the smoothness. When I pour this water down my gullet, as I'm going to...
when you're out teeing them up.
Teeing them up. That's right, Tom. Watch this. Everybody watch.
That was involuntary.
Involuntary. It wasn't forced at all. Everybody go out, get Pawnee Water. Pawnee Water is the greatest water. There's no debate about it. You can go to the other stores. You can see the islands of Fiji or whatever the hell they're trying to sell you. Or Evian. Evian sucks. No free ads, but Evian sucks.
We just met with them yesterday, by the way, but that's okay.
Did you? Well, that's all right. Well, what am I supposed to do with that information? Now I'm put in a hole. Now I'm backed up against the wall. I don't know what to do. Well, I don't know if it's a joke. Either way, but I know they're not as good as Pawnee Water, the greatest water known to man. So everybody go out, get Pawnee Water, drink your water, and let's have a day. Let's have a day. Pawnee Water.
Elliot.
Yeah.
Temper it down a sec.
What?
That was...
City tempered down. Been in a crappy mood for a week and a half since I
Yeah.
came back. You are the only one that shows up here regularly with a smile, upbeat attitude.
Pep in my step.
Beaver's been a little down. Casey's been a little down. Now Casey's not here. We got people in the chat that are saying the show's going off the rails.
It's not off the rails. I was supporting
A lot of people saying it, especially some dude on here known as Mouse Cop.
Mouse
whoever
Cop.
that guy is. Whoever that guy. Listen, time out, Mouse Cop. Let's talk. Let's talk. Man to man. Mano y mano right here. Why'd you block me on Twitter yesterday? What was that about? What did I do? You were impersonating me. And you blocked me.
This is a good question.
I didn't like that, Mouse Cop. Unblock me. We're still friends. Let's bury the hatchet. That's all I got to say.
I love Mouse Cop. He's a good man. I met him. I've met him before.
My microphone isn't on Mouse Cop.
Oh, no.
I think he's pranking you, Reed.
Okay.
I think that might be a prank. And it's a good prank because we just don't know.
Tom's mic is now on. It was not on.
Okay.
Oh, was it really not on?
I turned it off. I turned it off and during the ad reads in case Tom had something to say off air. So
Okay.
it's back on. I was just trying to do my best.
Somebody else might have done that a few years ago, but that's neither here nor there. So why do you think, fellas? Why do you think?
Yep.
And both of you are greater Cincinnatians. You're from Hamilton, Reed.
Yep.
And Elliot, you're an elder guy.
Yep.
Why do you guys think that Cincinnati doesn't pay attention much to Ohio State like virtually every other city in the state of Ohio? Even up around this part. Up here in Hamilton, you start floating around close to Dayton, Middletown, places like that.
Right.
They're all in on the Buckeyes.
No,
Dayton is all in on the Buckeyes, right? And you know they are up in Akron and Canton and Cleveland. They're into it big time, all the way down to Athens. Why not Cincinnati?
Well, all those places you just mentioned don't have a very good football program or basketball program or a good college, so that's why they cheer for Ohio State. It's because they don't have anybody else to cheer for.
Well, one thing that I have, I think it's a bunch of circumstances. Like, Tom, if you actually go to Toledo, a lot of those
You get a
fans
split.
are Michigan fans.
That's right.
It's
'Cause
about
they're closer to
50-50 on
Michigan.
Ohio State
Right.
and Michigan.
Right.
But pretty much everywhere else in the state, it is 100% all Ohio State all the time. I think part of the reason that Ohio State, and I still think it's by far the biggest fan base here in town. I think it's by far the biggest fan base. I think it's because we have
Well, it's
UC.
not bigger than UC.
I think Ohio State I think they're on par. I think that UC up until recently wasn't on that top tier of programs. They're still not there, but they couldn't even be thought to be on that same pedestal. I also think something that hurts them is and this is coming from a guy who is a Notre Dame apologist here, is I think we have a very big Catholic population here in Southwest
Without a doubt.
Ohio, and I think a lot of the times Catholics are drawn to the Golden Dome. So I think there's just a myriad of reasons. And also, UK kind of has a small fan base here in town. I think UK, certainly in
basketball,
basketball,
for sure.
And then I think there's some people that cross over in our UK football fans as well.
Yeah.
I think there's just more
it's
to do.
interesting, that, and I've always thought that, you're spot on when you talk about the Catholic part of this, because when Jerry Faust was the coach at Moeller High School, and I'm old enough to remember going and watching them play, and they had guys that were going Division I all over the place, most of those players, not all, most of them, found their way to Notre Dame. And, of course, Faust wound up going to Notre Dame as a head coach. Then there was a run after Faust left where Michigan seemed to get a lot of good players out of here. Notre Dame would get their share, the Michael Mayers of the world, but Michigan would get their share. It all changed when Urban came in. All the great players in Ohio State and Ohio, by and large. Now, Harbaugh's won back, players here and there that have decided to leave Ohio and go play at Michigan. But, I think that was a big part of it for a long, long time. But, seriously, I don't understand why you can't be a UC or Xavier fan and at the same time be an Ohio State fan. Why can't you be? It's your state's mammoth school.
Because they're on the
and
same.
as far as success, look, you can sit there and beat up Ohio State all you want for not winning a championship since 2014, whatever it might be. But they've won 7 or 8 national championships in the history of the program. It's one of the best programs in college football, top 3, no doubt. What's not to like? Why can't you like them even if you like UC, outside of when they occasionally play?
You know what's honestly, I feel this to be true about Ohio State, and this is coming from a guy who admittedly, as you can tell if you've watched the show long enough, I'm tired of hearing all this Ohio State because I grew up around Ohio State fans and they're overbearing. I don't think anybody in college football has tougher critics than Ohio State football. I think the fans, I think the media, I think all these extenuating circumstances are so tough on Ohio State, and I don't fully understand why. I think Mr. Mo put this in the chat yesterday, or at least in our Discord, and said, listen, when Ohio State goes to Indiana and struggles, still wins, but struggles for a little bit, they lose spots in the rankings. Meanwhile, Georgia goes to Mizzou last year and pulls a win out from their teeth, and there's no one's tough on them. Ohio State seems to be in a lose-lose scenario all the time because they have dominated the Big Ten for so long, to where if they win, and they win by 40 against any team in the Big Ten, you sit there and you go, yeah, they should. They're the best team in the Big Ten by a mile. They should do that. And then when they lose, or even when they win small, you're still like, why didn't they win more? So there is no scenario in which Ohio State gets the proper credit that they deserve. And this is coming from an Ohio State hater, but I feel that to be true, that no one has tougher critics than Ohio State football in the country. I really do think that.
I think hand in hand with that was a program you brought up earlier, but in a different sport. Same thing applies to Kentucky basketball.
No doubt.
I mean, they've been wanting to run Cal out of town for I don't know how long.
And he wins. I mean, he's won one big one. He gets the Final Fours all the time. But, yeah, it's very tough. It's a tough situation to be in. That being said, though, Tom, I have a problem with people that are fans of different college sports, like
your boss.
Like my boss, who is a Georgia football fan.
Yeah, you talk about the ultimate front runner.
Yeah.
I mean, just a bandwagon fan through and through.
I mean,
he just cheers for everybody.
The Packers in football. It's Kansas in basketball. Are they any good in basketball, Kansas? I mean, did they ever win much? It's Georgia in college football. Have they won much? Last time I checked, they're back-to-back national champions. And those are his 3 favorite teams.
Listen,
he does root for the Reds. They wouldn't fall under any of those categories.
My other boss, Sean, he's what you talked about. He's a UC basketball fan, and he's an Ohio State football fan. Those are his 2 biggest fan bases, and I always tease him like, "Hey, UC's got a competent football program. Why aren't you a UC because he likes UC basketball more? I was like, why aren't you a UC basketball fan?" And he's like, "They don't have to be these things." And I have a problem with that, especially when you get into these fans. In this area, there are fans that are Ohio State football fans and then UK basketball fans. That I have a problem with. Well, I have it out because I'm a Xavier basketball fan. They don't have a football team, so I gotta choose another team.
Which, by the way, that story was in the paper yesterday. We'll get back to that in a minute, but go ahead.
Well, here's what it is. When you're a fan of a team like UC, and look, UC doesn't win a ton of stuff. We're not going to win national championships left and right and anything. You can't give up on your team and go to a different team just because the one team wins more championships than the other team. I'm a UC football fan. I'm a UC basketball fan. I don't care as much about UC football. I love UC basketball. I love it, love it. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But because UC football hasn't been historically great, I'm not going to go over and switch to Ohio State football. That's not what I'm going to do. Being a fan is a sacred thing. You're a fan of your team no matter what.
No, but the question I asked is, why can't you be both?
Because it doesn't work. In your mind, it doesn't work like that. I think it's different if you live in Akron, Kent State, if you're a fan of Kent State, if you live in Toledo. Because those football programs, it's a different echelon. It's a different level of athleticism, I would say. A different level of sport, right? There's no MAC school in the history of the world that's ever going to compete for a national championship or anything close to it. You're going to still have school spirit. You're going to still love your school. But at the end of the day, when it comes to nut-cutting time, when we're looking at the college football playoff, there's going to be teams you're going to cheer for, and there's going to be teams that you can't cheer for. You're not going to be able to cheer for Toledo. You're not going to be able to cheer for the Ohio Bobcats, bums. So you're going to cheer for
very careful there.
You're going to cheer for Ohio State. You're going to cheer for Michigan. You're going to cheer for Georgia, Alabama, any of the big dogs because it's sports and you want someone to root for. I have a backup baseball team, Tom.
Who's
your
that?
backup?
The Mets.
Oh, boy.
Because they spend money?
Boy, misery loves company.
Yeah. Mets and I'm a fake Mets fan, and then I'm a Reds fan. One team spends a lot of money and loses. The other team doesn't spend any money and still lose. So both teams lose.
Did you guys see the story, before we get to Chad Brendel, did you guys see the story in the Enquirer yesterday about this Xavier football thing?
Yeah, I did.
So for those of you, and I've heard a lot of people around town talk about this over the last number of months. Because Xavier used to play pretty good football down there. They really did. You go way back to that generation of Roger Staubach didn't play there, is in the Naval Academy, but a lot of guys he played high school with at Purcell and Elder and St. X. A lot of guys went on and played for Xavier. And there was talk they were going to bring back the football program and restart it. But now the story comes out that they have all their energy, their time, their focus, their cash focused on a medical school opening at Xavier. So that's off the board. But we talk a lot more UC around here than we do Xavier. That's for sure. And our main man, he's right here in the flesh. Chad Brendel, what's happening, my man?
Nice to see you. It's been a while.
Nice seeing you. I know. How you doing?
Doing good.
All right, now look, Chad. I'm going to start. Yep. We're going to get to the basketball story. It's a bigger story. We're going to get that secondary. Get to that in a minute here. UC football. Where are you on this whole thing? 4 in a row. They've dropped. They've played some good competition, especially Oklahoma. They played some some better competition, I think, than most people realize, especially in Miami. But it's a game you would think UC should have won. But Miami's won 6 in a row. Where are you on the state of the football team right now?
So I wasn't overly concerned through the BYU game. I mean, yeah, there were reasons to look and say, okay, this team is playing fairly well, but they haven't figured out that recipe to win. I mean, if you look at the Miami game, they should have won the Miami game 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
But it's sports. That happens. They have the kick to win it and erase a mistake-filled day. It gets blocked. They lose the game. But ultimately, if you look at the numbers, they dominated that game. They just didn't – they had a couple too many miscues that allowed Miami to hang around and then sneak out a win. In a rivalry, that happens. Oklahoma was the better team. And then BYU, again, too many, the pick six and then the punt fumble at the 15-yard line. They kind of handed that one to BYU. Iowa State was concerning because I didn't see a team that was ready for a fight. You're on a 3-game losing streak. You're coming off a bye. I would expect a team that was out there for blood. And when things got dicey in that game, when they got to that critical juncture of, is this going to be a game down to the wire or not, it felt like they actively chose or not. And I think a lot of that was probably confidence related because you've had things go wrong. It snowballs. But that was concerning to see a UC team that has not been the MO outside of, Senator Tuberville's regime. It's always been a team that was ready for a fight. And I saw a team last Saturday that didn't look ready for a fight. And that raises a red flag. We have to see what this week looks like. If this week looks similar, oh boy.
Well, it always gets back with any team, whether it's pro, college, whatever it is, especially when you make a change at head coach and they lost a guy who did a phenomenal job here in Luke Fickell. He's up in Wisconsin, obviously. You bring in Satterfield. I mean, the easiest thing in the world to do is to always blame the coach. Is that fair in this situation?
I think it's kind of a collective of things. I think they're not as talented as they need to be entering this league. There is some talent at the top of the roster. And it's not that they're completely devoid of talent or they wouldn't have been in a position that they've been in outside of the Iowa State game. But there's not a lot of depth, and you lost a lot of, you lost a recruiting class essentially. You lost a lot of guys that transferred out. You replaced them. You're trying to rebuild the chemistry and the culture because you have so much newness around the program. But I think there's blame for coaching. I think there's blame for players not getting the job done. Is it Scott Satterfield's fault or the offensive coach's fault if you draw up a wide open player streaking towards the end zone in the beginning of the Iowa State game, 5th play of the game, they got a guy running free to the end zone and the quarterback overthrows him? I have a hard time blaming that on coaching. But there has to be, special teams has been dreadful. Tom, to be honest with you, one of the most deflating things I've seen in many years of covering this team, it's 17-7 at halftime. Iowa State gets the ball coming out of the half. And you think, okay, 3 and out, get a stop, get some points. It's a 1-score game. You're in a good spot. They go up a 72-yard kickoff return on the opening kick of the second half.
Yeah.
And that can't happen. And that was after a 40-plus yard return earlier in the game on the same type of return. Guy strings it out wide, cuts through traffic, and all of a sudden he's in the clear. And my partner on the BCJ podcast made a great point last night. If you go back and look at those 2 returns, the guy ran out of bounds. He was never touched. So those are the type of things that you can kind of look and say, all right, well,
yep.
How did you let that happen? Not once, but twice. that do say, yeah, the coaching has to be better, execution has to be better, the players have to be better. Right now, it's just a culmination of a lot of things that are not going right in Clifton.
Okay, we brought it up on Monday on the show about what to do, if anything, with Emory Jones. He's transferred a couple of times already. He won the starting job. Bryant takes off after he realizes he's not going to be the guy once he decided to come back for a brief time. And Jones, look, there have been moments he looks fantastic. There have been a lot of other moments where he has not. It's his last year eligibility-wise of college football. Should they continue to keep playing him, or would they be willing to maybe take a look at what they might have looking ahead to next year?
For now, you're still have the possibility of playing in a bowl game, still have the possibility of kind of getting this ship rightened. I think you stick with Emory because he gives you the best chance to win. If we get a couple more games down the road, it's probably going to be time to figure out what you have going forward. I don't think we're at that point yet, but it's not far off in the distance. In this case, you can see the light at the end of that tunnel, and it might be a train. So you're going to have to at least think about where things go. And I asked Scott Satterfield this in the press conference on Tuesday about when is the time to look at the younger guys. A guy like Brady Drogosh, the 4-star quarterback, who's a freshman, he can play 3 more games and still maintain his red shirt. So when you get to that point, you might need to take a look and see what you've got in Brady Drogosh. You might take a look at Brady Lichtenberg here in a couple games if things don't get back on track and say, we need to find out if we're looking for a quarterback in this offseason to see if Lichtenberg can be the guy that you need. Now, a different type of player, so it would impact the offense some because he's more of a pocket guy than Emory Jones is. I mean, the biggest weapon they've had this year consistently has been Emory Jones' legs. And if you take an offense that's struggling and remove the only thing that it has done consistently well,
yeah,
I'm not sure I want to know what that looks like yet.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a really good point. I want to shift gears to the basketball thing. I went off yesterday about this whole thing with the 2 players. Help me here. Aziz Bondago.
Bondago.
And then Reynolds.
Yeah.
So for those, let's start with square one. For those who don't understand what is being ruled upon here, please explain to us what the NCAA is looking at here.
So these 2 players have both applied for mental health waivers. The NCAA has required that if you're going to get a waiver for a second-time non-graduate transfer. So Bandago was originally at Akron, transferred to Utah Valley, and now to Cincinnati. Reynolds was at UCF, then last year at Temple, now at Cincinnati. So the NCAA has set forth a list of requirements that you have to meet in order to be granted a waiver. And both players, the university believes both players have met all of the requested requirements that are necessary for a second-time transfer waiver. And the NCAA has denied the initial waiver. Now, this is not surprising because I don't know of a case that has gotten a waiver, and there's roughly 20% of these cases have gotten the waiver to be eligible this year between all of college sports. But I don't believe any of them have been approved at the waiver level. Then what happens is they go to appeal,
okay,
and that's where you've seen some things approved. So where Cincinnati at is they've gotten the initial denial on the waiver last Thursday, and now they're working on the appeal. Wes said yesterday that that'll be submitted by tomorrow.
Yep.
and then they hope to have a decision within like 2 weeks on the appeal. So that's kind of the overview of where it's at.
And I'm guessing, without knowing for sure here, Chad, but I'm guessing that one of the primary, if not the primary, sort of, line in the sand has to do with where the particular young man or young woman is it's transferring for a second time is academically standing, is where I'm guessing. Is that safe to say?
Well, if you graduate, then you can transfer.
You can do it. Yeah. Right.
The academics to my knowledge, don't really play. I mean, both are in good academic standing. Both have good grades. This is more, why are you, is there documented history at your previous school that you have been dealing with mental health issues? For Bandago, he's from Africa, but when he came to America, his base is in Akron. So that's kind of, he wanted to be closer to those people. That's part of his. So there's a variety of things, but to my knowledge, I mean, yeah, you have to be in good academic standing. But as long as you're in good academic standing, I don't think there's anything above and beyond that they require on that front.
Well, then if that's the case, okay, and let's just say both of these young men, they've been progressing academically. They are on track to graduate in 5 years, which they give you 5 to play for from an academic standpoint, right? So if they're on pace, and this is where I went off yesterday, a lot was made of the Tez Walker situation at the University of North Carolina. For those who don't know, he's this uber-talented wide receiver. He's a 2-time transfer guy. They deny him. Mac Brown, who is a highly visible head coach, highly visible television personality at one point in time, very respected, very well-liked guy, known by everybody, and he goes off on the NCAA. They changed their mind 10 days ago and allowed him to play for the first time last weekend. What on God's green earth is the purpose of the NCAA not allowing these young people to get a chance? I made reference yesterday to the Swamp Kings thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not. That was on Netflix, the University of Florida football thing. And okay, whether you liked it or not, it's irrelevant. The point I made was, as you heard young men, Chris Rainey, Brandon Seiler, Brandon Spikes, among others, talk about how they grew up in a situation where their only way out of a lot of bad things, right? And this doesn't mean every kid is in that predicament, and I want to suggest that. Their only way out is athletics. So what would be the reason why, and will we ever know the real reason why, the NCAA would deny these 2 young men having a chance to better themselves, make a better life for their families, even if they're not playing in the NBA, maybe they go play in Europe? Why would they say no?
Because it's what the schools want. That's just the straight gist of it.
Explain that to me. What do you mean by that?
So the NCAA is an extension of what the president's. It's the cloak for the man behind the curtain is the NCAA, or is the schools and the presidents, and the NCAA just kind of does what they want. What with NIL and the free first-time transfer and everything that's going on in college sports now, what have the schools lost? They've lost control over players. They've lost the ability to say, this is what you work for us. They don't want it to put that way because then the labor board gets involved. But you work for us and we control your rights. And there's nothing you can really do about it without penalty. And this is something that the coaches, if they get a transfer, they don't want them leaving. They've written some legislation in that the schools use to allow this to happen. This doesn't get talked about a lot, but last year there was a change, Tom, that if you transfer, the school is locked into your scholarship for your remaining college, the school that you transferred to. Okay. So that free first-time transfer, Now the school that you go to on the second transfer, they have to cover your education to the end. The trade-off for that is you can't leave. And if you leave, there's a penalty for leaving. So this was kind of a chess move that, again, as we're talking about these things, that didn't get a lot of attention. But now, hypothetically, if this were go to a court of law, the NCAA would contend, we allowed them one transfer. We have we have legislated that school now has to take care of them through graduation. And that's why there are restrictions on a second time non-graduate transfer. But ultimately, what it comes down to is this was one of the last ways that the schools and the coaches could keep control of the system. So they took advantage of it.
I don't know. I just say to myself, I thought we were in this for, to help young people.
No. We're in it now to make money, Tom.
Maybe that's just the sentimental side of me. I mean, because, look, I've had a chance like you have, Chad, to be around so many of these kids throughout my professional life. And when you hear the stories, I mean, again, I go back to the Florida thing, the Chris Rainey story. He was born in prison. His dad was in prison his entire life, never knew his dad. His mom was a drug addict. He had never had a birthday celebrated in his entire life until, he had a chance to go to Urban Meyer's house and when they were down in Florida and was able to watch him celebrate Urban and his family with their son, who's at UC, of course, coaching now. But he was able to see that. He had no idea that kind of thing went on in his life. Now, I'm not saying every kid is like that, and the system can be abused, and there can be situations where you're like, all right, come on now. This is borderline lunacy. But at the end of the day, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, neither one of these kids have done anything with trouble with the law.
Nope.
Right? Nothing.
Both great kids. Great kids.
I don't get it. I just don't understand it.
It's one of those things that they legislate these things through and don't think of the consequences. The other messed up thing is, if your coach leaves, you should have freedom of movement.
No question. Yep.
Especially at Temple, you had a coach fired.
Yep.
And at Utah Valley, you had a coach move up the ladder.
Yep.
And the reason that schools don't want that to happen is because they don't want their roster picked clean when a coach leaves. So they want to have whatever restrictions they can in place to make sure that they have the best chance to not have to do a 2006 Mick Cronin, where you go to the JUCO portal and get 9 guys to make out your team.
Yeah.
But that's why they put those things in there. But it's lunacy because kids are picking where they are going to play in large part because of the coaches. And if that coach leaves, you should be able to leave, no questions asked. But the NCAA doesn't want to give up. The schools don't want to give up any more control on that than they already have.
Well, it's a shame. I sure hope everything works out for Wes and the program and these two guys. Elliot, you had something for Chad?
Yeah, I have a quick question for Mr. Brendel. I'm a big fan of his work. Bearcat Journal is one of my favorite reads. Chad, a lot of people are clamoring on X.com about the big one this year for the UC basketball Bearcats. It takes place November 19th on a Sunday against Northern Kentucky. Do you think UC will be able to get revenge for last season?
I didn't agree to take questions from the Zebra.
Okay, well I've got a couple more.
It wasn't in my contract.
Okay, I've got a couple more then for you. How do you think Team Europe is looking over there at Norwood?
Interesting strategy. We'll see if that continues. But he's got a couple guys. He's got a couple guys on staff that specialize in recruiting over in Europe, and they're going to lean into that because it's a little easier to navigate than some of the high school waters right now, where coaches are just, if you're not a top 75 kid, coaches really aren't at that level, aren't messing with high school kids anymore. They'll let them go to a lower level play for 2 years, learn how to play, get trained, and then they'll go get them in the transfer portal after they've already been developed. So it's interesting. These are typically, a lot of these Euro guys have played against professional competition. They're a little bit more basketball advanced, but it's very risky in my mind because it's not a physical style of basketball in Europe. Yeah. And I think these guys, when they come over here and you start playing a Big East schedule, you better adjust real quick to getting a body chucked into you when the ball's up, going up for a rebound, and things of that nature. So I think they've got some talent that they managed to get late from Europe, but it's going to be interesting in year one to see how developed that talent is as they get into the tough part of their schedule.
Okay, and I just have two more quick little things, Chad.
He said he wasn't taking questions from you.
Yeah, but Chad, I haven't talked to my friend Chad in a long time. I'd like to talk to him just for two more. Chad, I've got a joke question. I've got a serious question. Which one would you like next?
Let's save the joke question for last.
That's fair. That's fair, Chad. This is a professional here. Chad, last year it seemed like David DeJulius was our leader. R being, I'm a UC fan, so I'm going to say R. I know people don't like to use the we, R thing, but it's my team. I love UC. I love UC basketball, so that's what I'm going to say. David DeJulius was our leader last year. Who's going to step up and be the leader this year?
That's a great question, Zebra.
Thank you, Chad.
That is
wow.
It's a question that's going to have to play out on the court. I think Simas Lukosius, the transfer from Butler, is going to be somebody that's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to be asked to kind of facilitate, not only facilitate, but also score offensively. And you're looking at a roster where everybody's so focused on the transfer portal stuff, the waivers. You're looking at a roster that replaced 4 of their top 5 scorers. So where is all that going to come from? You assume Victor Lockham will take a larger role. You would anticipate that C.J. Frederick is going to be counted on to be that kind of wing shooter that Landers Nolly provided. But the real Davion Thomas, the junior college point guard transfer, is going to be critical in the super secret scrimmage that nobody knows what happens except me. Maryland Press, they lost to Maryland 74-70 without the 2 big men, without the transfers. And Maryland's supposed to be a top 25 team, so pretty good. Davion Thomas had 11 points. Maryland pressed the entire game. He had 0 turnovers.
How about that?
So that is going to be a big name to watch. And then, like I said, I think Lukosius is kind of going to be the key at the top of that roster in terms of a guy that can consistently get you 12, 14, 16 points a game.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Chad, I have one more question for you. It's a little bit of a silly one. Tom, I don't know if you know, Chad sometimes hosts on ESPN 1530.
I do know. I'm well aware. I like his music selection.
Well, that's what I was going to – it's funny you mentioned that, Tom, because I was going to bring that up. Chad and I, we had this silly little fun thing where I would play really good music and Chad would knock it down. So I would like Chad to say what his favorite Big and Rich song is. He loves country music. Big and Rich.
I don't know a Big and Rich. I couldn't.
He
tell
doesn't
you a
like
Big and
country
Rich
music.
song.
I do want to ask you though, Chad, what is the opening song you play when you're stepping in there? Because I love that song.
It's International Players Anthem. It is from a group called UGK and Andre 3000 from Outkast.
How about that?
Okay, it's not Big and Rich. I thought that one was Big and Rich. All right, Chad, that's all I had for you. I love you, Chad, and please tell Austin not to shit on UC fans anymore. That would be great.
I mean, he brings it on himself. He wants to know why UC fans don't like him, and it's because he tries to make UC fans not like him.
That's very true, Chad. That's very true, Chad. He just doesn't get it.
You can't poke the bear and then get mad when the bear eats you.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for doing the Lord's work, Chad, covering UC, the premier team here in Cincinnati.
All right. Chad, thank you so much. Bearcat Journal at Chad Brendel. We thank you so much for your time. We hope your daughter Kelsey is doing great. And thanks so much for your time. And I'm sorry that Zebra had to interrupt a very good conversation.
That's okay. The next time, though, my people are going to talk to your people about some new terms.
I don't have any people. I used to have people. I don't have people anymore. I used to have them. Now I got these guys. I've gone
I'm
straight
sorry.
south. Chad, have a good day, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All
you,
right,
Chad.
Chad Brendel, kind enough to join us. Good dude. I like listening to him on the radio. I think he's on his game. Did you produce for him or what?
I did. I
And how did that go?
I love Chad. Chad. Now I'm gonna give you a little inside baseball of this station. There are hosts that I love. There are some hosts that I sometimes disagreed with. But Chad Brendel, he would always come in. He'd always ask me one thing before I produced. He would ask, A, what do you want for lunch? He would provide any lunch that a producer would want, which is very kind of him.
Right.
He would always bring in pizza. He brought me Arby's one time. I love Chad Brendel very much in that regard. The second thing is Chad always allowed the producer to talk back and forth with him like we do on this show, and I really respected that. Not all hosts do that, and I'm not saying all need to do that, but I really love Chad for that. I love all those guys at ESPN 1530, but Chad has a special place in my heart.
Has he treated you nicely the way he said that Chad treated him nicely, by and large, Reed?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
am I back on?
what is that? What is that?
I don't know. Is my mic on?
Well,
There we go.
What is that house?
That is not a house. That is Bluffton University. That is the greatest university in the state of Ohio. I can't hear myself in my headset, but I think I'm going live over the mic. But
well, you're going over twice.
oh my gosh. Well, Tom, take the reins here. I got nothing to say here.
Well, how about this?
Says, damn it, Reed.
But, okay, think about how far we've come in this show, Tom, with no errors. We've had 2 guests. We've had a weather report with backdrops and everything. And we've gotten to 11:30 here. Reed has never done this before. He's done a great job. He has done a phenomenal job. It's something I could never do. So I love Reed, and Reed's doing a very good job.
Well, Casey McAllister jumped in the chat, so he must be safe and sound, thank God. That can be very scary if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden blow a tire.
Very scary.
Yeah.
It's never happened to me.
Not a chance.
No.
Those are like, it doesn't matter if the lawnmower man misses multiple spots here in Hamilton. That Impala is going to just plow right through.
It's like a fortified tank, Tom. They used it in World War II. I think what's scarier, though, because I've had both of these, and my Impala will do this one, and it will hydroplane. What's scarier, hydroplaning or when you pop a tire, you blow a tire?
Well, I think it all depends on how fast you're going. You know, you blow a tire on the highway driving 70, 75 now, you're talking not good. But hydroplaning is terrifying. We rented a pickup truck, to move Luke into school this month and a half ago, whatever it was, 2 months ago. And, I mean, this was a big, sturdy pickup truck.
Yeah.
And
Work truck.
it was raining, light rain. I mean, must have hydroplaned 4 times going and 5 times coming back. And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, all of a sudden you think you got something, and, I mean, you got nothing.
Right.
Does your pickup have that problem?
My pickup has slid a couple of times, but it's a work truck. I mean, it just goes out there, it hauls stuff, it puts some dirt in the bed. It's just out there to work. You know, everyone thinks I got this white collar job of
Well, you kinda do.
working broadcast. Listen, I'm a hard worker. I get some dirt on the hands from time to time. Tom, you ever had to change a tire on the side of the interstate or anything like that?
I have. Yes, it's been a while though. I will admit.
It's not a whole lot
I'm
of
a
fun.
AAA guy. No, it's no fun. I'm amazed by some of those guys you see, man, and you drive past, and they're like on the right shoulder, and it's on the driver's side tire, and they're maybe no more than 10 yards max, right? From these trucks flying down the road or our cars driving down the road. I get terrified by it. Yeah.
We do have a super chat real quick if I'm able to read it.
Yes, we cannot put the super chats on the screen. I was taught that the other day, but I am forgetting my teaching. Sorry, Casey, I'm failing you.
Nobody's doing so good.
But Elliot, yeah, go ahead and read out the super chat.
I love that background. It really looks like you're up in the sky looking down at Bluffton there. So Chi-Town Real Estate, he says,
God.
"How's Trace? ? Love you all. Best sports show." So thank you, Chi-Town.
Trace will be back tomorrow. He's sick. He's not feeling up to weather. He didn't want to get us sick, so he's not been in the office the last couple of days. But he should be back tomorrow. I don't know if he'll be on the show. I don't know if he'll be up for that, but he will be in the office. So, so he'll be back to running this show. Tom, what was your biggest takeaway from what you talked with about Chad about just the whole, the transfer situation? Because I know you were fired up about it yesterday.
I was fired up about it.
What was your biggest takeaway?
I really don't understand it. I mean, especially once he brought into the picture of both the coaches, and he is spot on. Make no mistake. Now, NIL has changed things a little bit because maybe some guys are looking, where can I make the most money? Okay, that's now become a big factor, no doubt. But at the end of the day, okay, these 17-year-old kids, some of them are committing at 16, they're deciding where they want to go, not primarily, but damn near primarily because of who the coach is. Yeah. The head coach or the assistant coach who's done all the recruiting of them until the big guy comes in near the end to try and close a deal. And with these two young men, and you heard the story, kid from Africa, right? Family migrates to the United States in northern Ohio. Okay, starts at Akron, didn't work out there. He goes to Utah. Coach leaves. Now, the coach leaves, he ought to be able to leave. The same thing at Temple, right? They run the coach. The kid had started, comes into Temple, no doubt because of who the coach was. They run the coach. He ought to be able to leave. To me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Now, I can see how this thing could be abused, severely abused. I do see that. I'm not running around blind to think you got to give every single kid who maybe has a 0.7 or a 1.1 grade point average and they're transferring 3 times and they've been in school 4 years and they've only reached a 2-year academic standard, right?
Right.
Okay. Too bad. Stay where you are and try to get it together, right?
Right.
Or just not play basketball anymore. They'll honor the scholarship because they gave it to you. They have to. But when coaches leave, right? I mean, doesn't that just seem like a sort of no-brainer?
Yeah, I think Chad said it when he said, like, these guys go to school because of the coaches. When you get to these top level of schools, facilities some are better than others, but they're all really, really, really nice. So what are you going to a school for? Well, you want to play for a certain guy. You want to play for the guy that recruited you. And that's where they want to go. Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I'm wondering, is it too far gone for certainly basketball and football to where the amateur status of the athlete is gone to where they're college athletes, they're student athletes. Yeah, they still go to school, but who's going to school for them, right? Who's doing their work? Is that gone? Is that gone, Tom? Is the student athlete for at least college basketball and college football gone?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the overwhelming majority, Division I level, you have 300 and something teams playing Division I college football.
Right.
I think the 90 percentile or better are guys that know they're not going to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They got to go to the real world after playing college football, right? I mean, you would virtually say that about every starter on probably 250 or 60 or 70 teams.
Right.
Okay? Virtually. There's an exception here or there, no doubt, right?
Right.
Okay. The second string player or the third string player on all the big boys, okay? Probably same deal. Their best chance to go out in the real world and get his job is to go to school, get good grades, meet connections. The NIL has opened stuff like that for a lot of these kids. I heard that Cade Stover story. Have you heard this story about him in the NIL?
I have not.
Yeah, now, Cade Stover is the starting tight end for Ohio State. He is undoubtedly a pro player. He will be a big-time pick in the NFL draft a year from now if he wants to come out. He can stay another year. But he's a great player. But he comes from a rural farming community here in Ohio. His family, they've always been farmers, right? So rather than there was this company, I don't know if it was Steel or one of the big farm equipment manufacturers, right?
Yep.
Okay.
John Deere.
That found out, John Deere, right. That found out that is Cade Stover's background. So they came to him and they said, hey, we want you to be our spokesperson. And he said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to need the money. I'm okay on money. You know, family's worked hard. I got a scholarship. I'm getting a little bit of money already anyway. You know, he might have another side NIL deal. But he said, you know, my family could really use some new tractor equipment.
And that's
new farming equipment.
That's
and that's what
stuff.
his family got.
That's expensive stuff, Tom.
You better believe it.
Hundreds of thousands
no
of dollars.
No question about it. Now that, I found that to be very, very interesting.
It's noble. It's a noble thing to do. Like, instead of taking the money yourself, you say, listen, I want to help my family. They've helped me. They've helped me get to this point.
Yep.
I want to help them now. I've heard some crazy NIL stories, and I can't believe the money that is there. You know it's there for football. You know it's there for basketball. But I heard this story this past summer. There's a kid that went to school here at Batum. He's a Division I pitcher. He was at a pretty big time school already, not in like one of the Power Fives, but they're almost always ranked. He is transferring out of that school because there's an NIL collective to send him down to UCF, and they're going to give him over $100,000 to pitch. I'm thinking he's going to throw 50 innings this year. He's getting $100,000. There's that much money for UCF baseball? I don't understand it, Tom. Where's the bottom drop out?
That I can't tell you. But I think it has. A lot of people thought that the power programs, you know, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Alabamas, the Georgias, et cetera, USC now with Lincoln Riley out there, that they were going to get all the best players because they'd have the most money to offer.
Right.
Well, when you take into account two things. Number one, like you just pointed out, for a baseball player at UCF. Now, Florida is a big baseball state.
Sure.
Okay, but still, you know, there's that kind of money, the example that you just gave. And there's always, at the end of the day, if you're one of 5 running backs being recruited by Alabama, well, maybe it's not a bad idea to go somewhere else. Right?
Sure.
Get a chance to play. You start making a name for yourself, you become one of the stars, and now the NIL money's really rolling in, right? Even at Ole Miss or at Minnesota, right?
Right.
Or your program, LSU.
My program. Why am I associated with LSU, Tom?
I mean, I just can't believe you went on and on and on and on about LSU yesterday, and I'm the only one in this studio on a regular basis who stands tall in their defense of Brian Kelly.
Whoa.
Fighting Brian Kelly's.
I'm not gonna defend the person that is Brian Kelly because I think I don't know him. So this is maybe not fair. But he doesn't seem like a great person. Doesn't seem like a great person from everything that I've heard, everything that I've read, all that, yada, yada, yada. I will say that there is no doubt in my mind, none at all, that Brian Kelly's going to win a national championship at LSU because I think he's a damn good coach. He's won everywhere he's gone.
Yep.
And to be fair, the last 3 coaches that that have coached at LSU have won national championships. So I think it's fair to say that a championship's going to come to Louisiana soon.
Will you celebrate with the battling Brian Kellys in some small remote place in your mind or your soul if the fighting Brian Kellys won a national title? Yay or nay, Elliot, UC man?
It would be a cold day in hell before I cheered for that guy, for that bum. Listen, Tom, we do have breaking news.
We do?
We do have breaking news. The Reds.
The show's almost over.
The Reds have started to sign people, Tom. That we have made our first acquisition of the offseason.
Really? I didn't think they were allowed to.
You're not allowed to. What are you talking about?
Not unless the player's already on the team. They have extended somebody. Are you ready for this, Tom? Catcher number 1 has been extended. That is Luke Mailey. He is returning for a 1-year deal with the club option in 2025. Luke
you know
Mailey,
what? I think that is an excellent signing.
I have a quote from Nick Kroll here. Let me get my quote real quick. Nick Kroll says, staff loved him, players love him.
Yep.
He's a really good fit. He's a tremendous guy to have here.
I'll tell you right now, the more I watched him this season, it's so funny that that's the guy you're telling me they signed. Mm-hmm. Because when I watched that team this year, I said to myself, you know what? Everybody else might say he's not, and I could be totally mad in my thinking. You can win with Luke Mailey as your 90% time catcher. You can win. He's smart. He's an outstanding defender, has a good arm. He swung a bat a lot better than a lot of people thought. Now, look, he might fall flat on his face next year. I have no idea. I think Maile played well enough where I would be totally comfortable with my pitching staff working with him 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 days a week and seeing what you could get for Stevenson.
I don't know if you – I'm not ready to give up on Tyler Stevenson. I agree
ready
with
to give up on him.
I agree with you on Luke. I think that Luke, from what I saw, can certainly be a piece that plays a majority of the time. He came up with some big hits. He's a pretty good catcher behind the plate. And to be fair, I don't know how much longer a defensive catcher is going to be needed in the bigs because of the things like pitch comm, because of we're certainly going to get to an automatic strike zone at some point. I wonder at some point how valuable a defensive catcher is when the things that they used to be valuable in are gone.
Yeah, but one thing you do have to admit is there's a lot more of the run game now than there has been in baseball
That's
for
true.
a long time.
Gotta have a good arm. Gotta have a good arm. I actually wondered if we're going to get to a point where we see a guy with a cannon, an outfielder, some big burly guy that just throws the shit out of it and just go, hey,
Maybe.
Double A, we're going to teach you how to catch now. We're going to put some gear on you. You don't got to frame. You don't got to call pitches. We just need you to catch some balls, and then every once in a while we just need you to throw it down to second base. But I think that's a good signing. At the very least, that's a damn good backup, Tom.
There's no doubt. What do you think of that, Elliot? Why are people calling you Smelly It? Before we get to
Is anybody calling me Smelly It in there?
Yeah, they are.
I haven't seen one.
Yes.
But they only do it. They only do it when you say it, Tom. So now everybody's gonna call me
Thomas
Smelly It.
Smelliet. Thomas Smelliet.
Somebody just said it. Go ahead, but I want to hear your
They call me
reaction.
Smelly It
That was
because
Mouse Cop who
they
said
call
it.
me Smelly
He
It.
said it 3 times. I'm not making this up.
Well, now they're gonna keep calling me. Now that the whole show is gonna be calling me Smelly It. It's because my name's Elliot. And if you put an S and an M in front of Elliot, it's just smell it because I could
get it.
smell.
I never figured that
I
out.
get it.
He asked the question. I'm answering the question. Luke Maile, listen, I'm not going to give up on Tyler Stevenson saying that. Every single starting pitcher wanted Luke Maile as their catcher. That's a fact. They wanted Luke Maile to play. Luke Maile held his own offensively. He was not a bad hitter. He got a lot of bad strike zone calls because the way he stands up in the box. I will say that goes against him a little bit. But Luke Maile is a great catcher. Luke Maile won me over. I made fun of Luke Maile before the year. He was phenomenal throughout that season. Without Luke Maile, I don't know where we would have been.
When you had your individual apology tour, was he on that list?
No, I never.
And I couldn't believe I didn't see Ian Jabot.
Ian Jabot was on there, Tom.
He was in take 2.
He just sees the clips.
He just
on
sees
Twitter.
the clips.
Doesn't watch the show.
You gotta watch the whole show, Tom.
Okay, I
Come
did
on,
not
it's
see
in
it.
its entirety.
Okay.
But yeah, Luke Maile probably should have been on the apology list. I did make fun of him. The Reds had 3 catchers for a majority of last season, even though, well, I guess not really because Casali had that toe bruise for 4 months. But other than that, everybody else, it was Luke Maile and Tyler Stevenson. I trusted Luke Maile more than I trusted Tyler Stevenson. I know Stevenson got hot at the end. I know he's our guy. But last season, Luke Maile was the catcher that every pitcher wanted. It's really who Reds fans wanted at the dish. So Tyler Stevenson rolled over into 16 double play balls. Luke Maile did not. And he's a hell of a reliever, Tom. He came in several games.
That's true. Against the Cubs.
Against the Cubs. Both times against the Cubs. He came in for some relief work. He's a utility guy.
Local guy. He's Cuff Cath, right?
I know that.
Yeah, it's the local guy.
I know that. I learned during this season, I guess he was a great basketball player.
I believe it.
Over at Cupcake.
I believe it.
Yeah, athlete.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing in the pros, you're an athlete, Tom.
Well, yeah. You're right. Or at least you were in high school for sure.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You might get slowed down or beat up by injuries, whatever the case may be. That happens, especially to catchers. But, yeah, I mean, I saw a really nice piece on him and how good he was in basketball. But good for him. Local kid made good. He knows he's going to be here at least through this year. Did you say it's a club option for the following year?
Yep, club option 2025.
Okay, so look, there won't be any action. Now, to your point about they are allowed to do something with their own.
Yes.
But I think, no, I mean, this would fall under that umbrella unless there's some little caveat. So they could make a decision theoretically on what they're going to do with Votto.
Yes, the option and stuff like that. I think you can do that now, but the
But
true
you can't
free agency.
redo his deal now. You have to wait until after the World Series for that. Meaning, okay, yeah, they could pick up a $20 million option on him right now and say, okay, you're back and you're playing. Okay. They cannot, or they could just say, we're going to pay you $7 million to leave, and that's it. End of story. You're allowed to do either one of those two things. What you can't do, which has been suggested by many that the Reds might consider doing or are willing to do, is to say to Votto, hey, look, we owe you $7 million no matter what. We're going to tack on another $3 million. We're going to give you 10. It's a new deal, 1 year, $10 million contract. You can't do that until the World Series is over.
Right, and then free agency starts 2 weeks after the
something like that
after the World Series.
Yep.
So Elliot, I think we have a mailbag. Correct?
That's right. I forgot
We
about
do?
that. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Well, then let's by all means, let's get right to it.
Give me a second.
It's a big part of the show.
Big part of the show.
This is where we find out a little bit about Reed.
All right,
Here we go.
Let's go, Reed.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from.
Me too. I wonder who it's from.
Mailbag. Listen, it's everybody's favorite segment. I've got my mail here. I've got my letter. I don't know what to do with that, so I'm going to drop that on the floor.
Okay.
Here we go. Today's mailbag comes from sweet little Mike. Sweet little Mikey from Mrs. Tyson's class. I'm a second grader from Houston, Texas. Like we said, these come from all over the world.
They really do. It's amazing.
That's in England, correct?
Huh?
That's in England, correct?
No, that's in Texas.
Oh, okay.
England's in England. You got that
I
confused.
forgot where Ian Jabot's from.
You got that confused. That's on you. I'm a second grader from Houston, Texas, and my daddy came home from the club last night and told Tom, no laughing. Tom, no laughing. Tom, no laughing. I'm going to have to restart. I'm a second grader from Houston, Texas, and my daddy came home from the club last night and told me a story about seeing James Harden there. Apparently, James was buying rounds of chicken tenders for everyone.
Oh, my
The
God.
Philadelphia 76ers are holding mandatory practices right now, but James Harden is out in Texas? Is he the biggest diva in the NBA, or is it Kyrie Irving? Thanks, little Mike.
Tom, thoughts? Who's the biggest diva in the NBA?
I think that there was a time Kyrie would have had the league, but I think that Harden has now surpassed him.
Harden's wild, man. James Harden requests a trade from every team he goes to.
Yeah.
Kyrie's just kind of a weirdo where he just starts saying things about like how the earth is flat and all that nonsense. James Harden is just not to mention, I don't think he's a very good basketball player. I think he's a hack.
Oh, now
I think he's
come
a hack.
on.
I do. I think he's a hack. He invented a rule where if you lean into somebody and take a shot, you get free throws out of it. So he invented his own rule in the NBA. Congratulations to him. But other than that, James Harden doesn't win championships. You don't want James Harden.
No, he does not.
You don't want James Harden leading your team. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. So yeah, I think James Harden right now is the biggest diva in sports. I think he's going to force Philadelphia to trade him, and he's probably going to go back to Brooklyn for the third time in a month. So I don't know, man. That's James Harden and Kyrie Irving, both of them.
And for those of you wondering, that is a story about Harden, who has had all of this offseason back and forth with the guy who was like his number one ally, the general manager in Philadelphia, who brought him in on the trade. They had some kind of falling out when there was talk about redoing the deal and so on and so forth. Now he says that fence cannot be mended under any form or fashion. He did not show up when they started working out, though he did start to come to practice, if I got this right. But now they're playing their first preseason game tomorrow night, and he was expected at practice yesterday, and he's not there. Yeah. Right? Is that it in a nutshell?
That's right. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible what James Harden's doing. But that's the NBA, and it's endless money. They get paid these supermax contracts, and you have to put up with that stuff. So,
Did James Harden fake being fat a couple years ago?
He did. That was the joke about the chicken tenders there.
Right.
I think he put on a fat suit, and he forced the Brooklyn Nets to trade him away. That's a real thing that happened.
That's crazy.
A lot of drama in the NBA. There's always drama in the NBA. Always drama. Yeah, did Harden? No, I don't even know if that's true. Did he run around with one of the Kardashians?
Listen, I keep up with the Kardashians. At least my wife does, and I don't think so. I don't think
so either. I don't think that's true.
I don't think it was confirmed. If anything, no.
Okay. All right. So tonight, before we get out of here, and we're going to get out of here a couple minutes early today. Any action tonight? Zillionaire?
Yes.
Any
that
action?
was a good point.
Any picks for the night?
Hold on. Let me get in the vault. I have my picks saved on my computer. Give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Right.
Everybody
find out.
Everybody
Reader,
calm
you got
down.
any action tonight?
No, I do. I haven't looked at it yet. I assume I'm going to be betting on something for Thursday Night Football.
Okay.
I don't know what it is yet. I'd like to see if Trevor Lawrence is going to play, or else I might sneak on the Jags.
I do have it now. Okay. Alvin Kamara, as everybody knows, he's the running back of the New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
I'm going to have him to get his over in rushing yards. I'm going to have Travis Etienne to score a touchdown for the Jaguars. We don't know if Lawrence is playing. I bet Lawrence suits up, but we don't know.
He will. He's gamer.
Calvin Ridley to score a touchdown for the Saints as well, and that's it. So I have, I have Ridley and Etienne touchdowns. Alvin Kamara over his rushing total, and I have under in the game, which is I believe is 40.
Okay.
And a half.
All right. Well, you're not sure yet. You're going to wait and see.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna see if Trevor Lawrence plays, and I'll probably bet on the Jags. I think the Jags are pretty good. The whole reason that they were underdogs was because they didn't know if he was going to play or not tonight. If he plays, and I think he is going to play, so I'm probably going to bet on the Jags. Also, there is the phenom in the NHL, Connor Bedard, who's a Chicago Blackhawks number one overall pick. They played 6 games now. He has gone over on his shots on goal in every single game so far. Full 6-0. It's sitting at 3.5 again. I'm probably going to take that over until it loses, because you're going to ride a phenom until they lose. So, Connor Bedard.
If you're in our chat, Nick Mormon swears up one side and down the other that he's never losing on his hockey picks.
Yeah, he says he knows puck. We'll see.
So,
we'll see.
if you want to check it out and see what his picks are for tonight in the chat, by all means, please do. I want to give it up before we get out of here. Reed, unbelievable job today.
Thanks, Tom.
Reed did a really good job.
Thanks.
Reed is the leader of Chatterbox. He led me. He's been my leader. He will continue to be my leader. He did a phenomenal job.
Really did. You were on your game today, so thank you.
Under
Emergency
pressure.
pinch hitter, you delivered the pinch hit home run.
Hey, I try my best. So little inside baseball. I had been meaning to learn how to do this for months now, and because just being busy, it always gone by the wayside. I come in Monday, this week, and I said, all right, Casey, you're going to have to teach me how to do this just in case if you ever miss. He taught me Tuesday. It is now Thursday, and I already had to step up to the plate. So that was just beautiful timing on our behalf, but we got through this. We do got a super chat once again.
Yeah, Big C, the wild horse, $4.99 says Reed is MVP of the day. We agree 1,000% on that. Well said.
Well, thank you guys.
Well said.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
I do have a cherry on top if we want to.
Let's get it in there.
All right.
Always go. Presented by United Dairy Farmers. Our cherry on top for today. What is this?
It is from the Phillies game a couple nights ago.
Okay.
It is DeAndre Swift, I believe, a couple Eagles players.
Okay.
What games you been to? Yeah, my first one. This going crazy. This is my first one too. I want to see a home run. Not right now though. Yeah, not right now.
They were experiencing the baseball game. Like they had never been to a baseball game before, and it was just electric. Them like, I want to see a home run.
Different city damn near every other day. He look like he about to do damage though. Bam! I told you.
Just a couple Philadelphia Eagles experiencing playoff baseball.
He got a good song. He got everybody singing with it. Everybody know the song. That song probably gonna be in my head all night. Okay. You know, like in baseball, they switch pitchers every game. Yeah, because they can't pitch too many times in a row, right?
The best was at one point they go, how many games do they play? I don't know. Who cares?
I don't want bat. I don't want none of that. Put me in the outfield somewhere. You see what I'm saying, bro? That's 100 miles per hour. Come on. Hello. Come on, ref. Yes, sir.
On the ref.
I gotta say umpire, right? You're a kid, ain't you? They the ball boys. Oh, I know he love his job.
Saw the ball boy come out there like, he ain't playing for the Phillies, is he?
That's good stuff.
He's taking second.
That is good stuff. That is really good stuff. You know, it always fascinated me. And last thing I'll say here before I get out. It is amazing how many baseball players love football and follow it religiously, like the rest of us.
Right.
I mean, and then it is equally as stunning how many football players don't watch a single second of baseball and don't know. That right there, which you just saw, and those two guys were having a great time and they were fun to listen to and all that, knew nothing about the game.
Not a lick.
Right? That is the majority of at least a lot of the football players that I ever met. They know nothing about baseball.
Well, here in America, we are all introduced to football at a very young age. And it used to be that everyone was introduced to baseball as well. But, because you get into these cities and stuff like that, baseball's an expensive sport to play. So a lot of times people that live in cities, they don't play a whole lot of baseball. They don't grow up around the game. They don't know a whole lot about the game. So that's why you get that. I always find it funny when they have one of the greatest basketball players. They have him throw the first pitch out at a game, and it's atrocious to watch.
Brutal.
Baseball has more out of the big three sports skills that take years and years and years and years to learn. Swinging, throwing, pitching, all this stuff that these athletes that are world-class athletes in basketball, world-class athletes in football, they don't have a prayer because they just never did it.
That's
they just
right.
never did it.
Never did it. That's exactly right. All right, Reed, great job. Elliot, great job. Great being with you guys. You said that Casey taught you how to work the board. Maybe tomorrow, come in a little early, and you can teach Casey how to change a flat tire. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow, good Lord willing, at 10 a.m. Our picks tomorrow. Big football weekend. We'll see you mañana.
Casey Ball and Elliot.
Good job, Reed.
Great job, Reed.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.